But let's jump right in because I have an awesome guest with me today. I'm super excited to share her information and her work because it is something that I just became aware of. I didn't know. So, Emma G is an amazing songwriter and singer. That is how I first became aware of her. I have actually been privileged to witness more than one of her performances. Um, and I met your bass player. I don't know if I told you that. I met your bass player and he like took a picture, a Snapchat with me that I sent to my kids so I could act like I was cool. I was like, look, I met the band. So that's a little story you didn't even know. I'll share
That's
that.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'll take that. He's great.
Yeah, he was very, very, very sweet to entertain, a foolish mom who was like, take a picture with me. But so that's how I knew Emma G. I knew her as a musician. And then I found out that in addition to all of that wonderfulness, which is wonderful, she also has an amazing life story. And based on her amazing life story, she discovered, like so many of us, like me, myself, discovered that the things she used to help herself can help other people. And with that, I'm going to ask her to tell you a little bit about her life story and then how she helps teenagers and kids like mine and like yours.
Wow, what an introduction. Thank you, Tonya. How do I live up to that? No, thank you for having me today. I'm super pumped to be able to sort of share a little bit about my story and about who I am and what I do. I'm going to go like a little bit real with you for a minute because, like many other women, most women, my history is a little bit colorful. I was born with a health condition called hydrocephalus. So at the age of 4 months old, I had my first ever brain surgery, which is super fun, highly recommend. And, consequently have had 24 surgeries in my life. And that's on one end of the spectrum. However, for every other traumatic experience I've had, I'm sure you and many other women can relate to years of, depression, sexual assault, a brief stint of homelessness, drug addiction, alcoholism, losing friends to suicide, like the list goes on. And I think it's only getting worse as, not even taking into consideration the pandemic, but, with the advent of social media, of bullying, of, the political climate being so tumultuous, and just, I think as we enter the technological age, we're trying to grasp at straws to figure out how to navigate not just our own selves, but the hearts, minds, and souls of the young people who are having to sort of learn their way through and grow their way through territory that we don't quite yet understand and is moving so rapidly that we're struggling to keep up with. So that's kind of like my history as to where I've come from, given that I, have been through stuff. I was alive before the internet became a thing, and I, certainly alive now. It's been one of the things that I have found the most beneficial for me to help me stay motivated, stay centered, stay sane, stay alive is the art of songwriting. It's helped me process every, traumatic event, every, struggle that I've had as a human being, as a teenager. And it was only, the beginning of last year, 2020, before the pandemic even started, I wrote the song Living Proof and sang that for Marianne Williamson on the first of the year, and then was able to, that was the catalyst for coaching another young man by the name of Upset, and then a young woman by the name of Sydney Witt. And I realized, crap, like this is what I'm here for. I have a history as a teacher. I've been teaching since I was 17. I've taught at high schools. I've taught at universities. I've been a youth worker, won awards through the YMCA. But being able to couple now the art of songwriting with youth work to help instill resilience and self-worth and self-confidence and just self-knowledge, using songwriting as a tool for teenagers has been, the birthing of my Empowerment Through Music and Songwriting program.
That is such an amazing and beautiful story. And as the parent of two teenagers, and I would say this is actually true about me, but especially when we're teenagers, like music is life when you're a teenager. It gives you all the feels. It's, and that's why we like made mixtapes in my day.
Yeah. No, I did too. It's okay.
And it was because it was like, listen to this. Does this make you feel what I feel? That's why we do it. It's like our way of connecting through music is so powerful. And especially at that age, I totally see how what you have to offer, which is so unique because you're a musician and you understand music and you understand teenagers and kids and you understand life's hardships. So which is also something teenagers don't really identify with people who, like, you're a teacher, you learn this in a book, you're just telling me what you learned in a book. Teenagers are so astute and savvy that doesn't work for them. So
I have 3 rules when I meet with any teenager, and this is, I think, partly to do with my history of, starting my teaching career in New Zealand, where our Indigenous people are called Māori, and so I instill a lot of tikanga Māori teaching principles into the way that I teach here in the States. And one of the biggest principles is the concept that no matter if you're an educator or a learner, you both have things to contribute and to take away. So I say this to every teenager that I work with, is that as much as I'm going to learn from them, I want them to learn from me and vice versa, because they're going to teach me things about, every current modern day artist that I don't, I'm maybe not too familiar with, and then in turn I'm going to be able to help them to create pieces of art that are up to the same level. It's as much as music totally helps us to find identity in ourselves. One of my biggest I don't know if fear is this the right word, because I recognize that this is a generational thing, but as opposed to maybe using Megan Thee Stallion as your teenage soundtrack, wouldn't it be great if you could create something that is of depth and of meaning and of worth to you, that you've created, and that can go on to be your soundtrack for your teenage years, as opposed to, WAP. If I may be so bold.
And only the parents of teenagers know what you're talking about, probably.
Right.
I do. I have teenagers. I know what you're talking about. And yes, I've seen Megan Thee Stallion live, actually, because I've had music with my teenagers.
Well, and there's nothing against her. Like, I see the value in the feminist movement in that direction, but it's really easy, I think, when you're that young and impressionable, to misconstrue the messages that are being taught. And so the value of being able to write your own, feminist anthems or equality anthems, or just anthems of self-worth and resilience and love and equality, and all the other things that make this next generation so valuable. I think that there's a distinct power in that.
Yes, I totally agree. And what I love about your work is I think it echoes a message that's in my work, which when I work with parents of teenagers, because I work with the parents and you work with the teenagers, but when I work with the parents, I say all the time, they aren't going to really do what we say anymore. That's just counter to what they're supposed to do. Their developmental task is to figure it out on their own right now. And so the way that I try and get parents to help their kids, because their kids do need the help, is to do it in kind of sneaky ways or ways that they aren't expecting. But the preaching and all of that just doesn't work. And you are doing the same thing with your work, where it's sort of, I'm going to help you in a way that you're not expecting. I'm going to give you this gift of song, which feels great and I enjoy. And oh, by the way, it actually helps you feel less anxious and helps with depression and helps with those other things.
It's incredible. And I think part of it as well, because it's such an enjoyable process, you know, to be creative, to lean into your creative genius, to remember your inner child, and you know, spark those, I don't know, creative sparks that we get educated out of. It's funny almost to me that they don't actually realize what it is that they're learning. So like that, they'll come to me, for example, and be like, oh, I'm so sick of, I don't know, the boys in my class, you know, sending me inappropriate pictures, for example. And so to them, we've just, you know, written this song about, you know, down with boys or whatever. Whereas the actuality is they're learning how to find their voice and learning how to, I'm obviously speaking about young girls, but, you know, they're learning how to speak up against oppression. They're learning to speak up against sexual objectification. You know, they're learning to speak up about things that matter to them. And it's the same thing with, you know, when we you know, write songs about depression, and we personify depression as an actual human being, and then figure out ways, like, if you could say one thing to depression, what would you say? Let's write a song about that. In their mind, they're thinking, oh, I've just written this kick-ass, you know, angry song, and now the world will understand how hurt I am. When in reality, you've just identified, oh, these are actual things that I can choose. I have the power to choose how I respond in times of despair, in times of sadness, in times of just feeling like desolate, especially when you're in isolation, right? So it's all these like fun ways that me as a non-parent, but still an adult and a mentor, can kind of not trick, but also just like kind of guide, gently guide the conversation in a way that's empowering and fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other amazing thing that happens with your clients that they don't realize is happening, but is totally happening, is you are someone who has achieved success in their eyes. You have done these amazing things. And when you say, oh, and by the way, I felt exactly what you're feeling too, that is something that opens their eyes to a reality they have, because we all do that. Even people my age look at people and say, oh, they've never had a hard day in their life. They have this.
But you're only a couple of years older than me, by the way, just FYI.
Well, you know what I mean, though, that like we all look at other people, and especially teenagers. Teenagers think I'm the only one. I'm the only one that feels this way. And it's so bad, I'll never get past it. And to talk to someone who's not their parent, because they discount what their parents say, who says, actually, you're not the only one, and you can get past this. I am living proof that you can get past some really, really hard things that you haven't even experienced. Most of your clients didn't have hydrocephaly and haven't had brain surgeries, and yet here you are. And so that's it's a really good message to teenagers.
Thank you. Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I actually wrote my first book 2 months ago randomly, because I was like, you know what? That's exactly it. People look at, you know, it's that white picket fence. It's that, you know, the Instagram filter. Everything's perfect for everybody else except for me. And I think, I mean, you've hit it right on the nose. It's, you know, she's got her shit together. I don't. How can we identify? So I go through every single song that I've written, and I, you know, talk about the times that I was scared to move halfway across the world from New Zealand to America, or the times that I was, you know, objectified by a big record label executive who decided that he would only sign me if I sent him naked pictures of myself, therefore playing into that man's world kind of mentality. You know, everything. It may look different, it may talk a bit different, but at the core, we all go through similar experiences. One person's trauma is that, sure, that's their experience, but trauma is trauma. It doesn't matter what it looks like, you know, and it doesn't matter what it smells like, doesn't matter what it tastes like. Trauma is trauma. And some people are going to have higher levels in their eyes. But at the end of the day, it's all about how we process, how we overcome, and how we get through. And I think songwriting is one of the most valuable ways that at least I have found. And I know that because it's worked for me, you know. Hundreds of songs later, I'm still alive, I'm smiling, and I'm able to, you know, now spread this tool with the other young people.
That is so awesome. And I could sit here and talk to you all day about it, but I know that people don't watch videos for much longer than this. So let's get to the most important thing. How can people find you if they are listening to this and think, oh my gosh, I want to know more. I think my son or daughter would love to work with Emma G. How can they do that?
Of course, they can either head to my website, which is emmagmusic.com. There you'll get, you know, all of my songs. You'll be able to download my book, My Life, My Songs, My Healing. And of course, you can schedule a time to have a consultation with me and your teenager to see if this is a good fit. Otherwise, if you want a more like, I want to go straight to the punch, you know, this sounds like a great program for my kid, head to workwithemmag.com. And there you'll find testimonials, you'll get all your questions answered. And again, of course, you can schedule a consult call with me or just go right ahead and book, you know, a session or 10. And, you know, we can get straight away to helping your teenager process whatever they're going through.